Wow, that's so exciting, which leads me on to a very exciting project because John Arbon also creates custom yarns for designers and small-scale sheep farmers. And Madeline and I have been toying with the idea of possibly having our own small range of custom yarns, and we have decided to take the plunge. So using our project as an example, I thought it'd be great to share with the viewers how we would work together to create a custom fibre blend and custom colourways.
Yes, exciting. This is definitely always making new things is one of our absolute favourite bits of the job. Yeah. So it's been such a treat working on you together.
Cool. Well, let's show them.
Yes.
So for commission yarns, we sort of fall between like the mini mills that like take a farmer's like handful of fleeces and make them a really tiny little batch of yarn, and like the really massive mills that are working with tons and tons and tons. So we're somewhere in between that. That's our niche. We mostly work with designers and other small yarn companies who are looking for something bespoke and very British. So we've worked with like Marie Wallen and Daughter of a Shepherd on both of their yarn ranges that they have, and lots of hand dyers as well who are looking for something that's just that little bit different and very unique. That's where we are in the market. And the first thing we do when someone says, we'd like some yarn, what do you want? We go, what is it that you would like? What kind of yarn do you like to knit with or crochet with? And what aspects are what do you like best? What sort of things do you like to make? So
my ideas, which I guess are always going to be slightly flexible, but I think over time my taste changing more. I'm really wanting a yarn. First of all, I know I want a sport weight because I like to knit. Everyone knows I like to knit at a tight gauge, and I often use a sports weight for a fingering weight design because it just gives me an even neater, tighter gauge, and I don't have to mess around with all the numbers and change the pattern. So I know I want a sport weight just for me, but also I think it's great for other people because it's not quite as thin as a fingering, and it's not thick and chunky like a DK. So that is what I'm aiming for. I want it to be really drapey. And because I love to wear my clothes not just out in the farm but also to the opera, and I want to wear it with a sparkly skirt, so it's got to have a shine to it and a drape to it so it can look like evening wear or can look very elegant. That's where I'm heading towards. So I think I need silk.
Yes. Silk definitely will give you that shine.
And softness, but I hate pilling, as you all know as well. So
yeah, that's why we suggested maybe Corriedale, because like we mentioned earlier, it's quite soft, similar to merino, but it's a little bit more hard wearing, quite versatile, and that's what we personally use in our Yarnadelic as well. So like we already like it, we think it's great. Yeah. And then like you said, silk, we're going to try and put absolutely as much silk as our machines will allow.
Yes. Which we're thinking is maybe 20%.
Yeah, yes. Our machines are all set up specifically for wool, so other fibres we have to be a bit more careful with. Yeah. And silk is very slippy and can be very temperamental because it's so beautiful.
So that slippiness, if I just pull this apart, you'll see it will kind of take off. A little bit.
And now it's going to stick to everything.
And it will stick to everything. It gets quite airborne just because it's so fine. Whereas if one did the same thing with the wool, you can see it behaves itself much more. So it's always a little bit of a challenge trying to integrate the silk with the wool, but I guess it's worth it.
Yeah, if we can't quite get to 20%, maybe we stick some blue face Leicester in for a bit of shine, whatever. We can be flexible as that.
Yeah, well, we're just experimenting, aren't we?
And so I'm thinking maybe 3 plies, at least 3 plies, because that's good for cables, and it also works for colour work. You can do colour work with anything.
Definitely. As long as it's not superwash. So.
Yeah, and I want drape.
Yeah, so perfect if you want anything that could be lacy or could be cables, and it'll just have really nice stitch definition, which is also perfect.
Or the good old Scandinavian stocking stitch.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 fold Corriedale
good
with silk.
Sport weight. So that's where we're starting with, and then how many colours? Like, I just want to start off.
Yeah. I mean, this is something we always struggle with because we have trouble narrowing down the colours. But I think really anything under 10, so like 8 to 7 to 9 would be really sensible place to start. You don't want a too small of a palette because then you're not really giving people enough options. And you've got to think that you want to have a colour where everyone's going to fall in love with at least one colour in the range, and hopefully the whole range. But you want to offer enough versatility for crafters.
So I thought I'd start with the neutrals first, which, as you know, is not really my forte because I love bright colours. But you do need neutrals, and I want to please my customers. And then one night I was up till 3 a.m, lying in bed thinking of all these neutrals. How can I make a neutral exciting? And then I had the idea of a white opal, being Australian and all. And so I printed out this big picture of a white opal. And maybe it's also because I'm knitting Madeline's wedding veil and I'm discovering a crew, which sounds very sophisticated, which really just means slightly off-white, but sort of shining and very sort of luminous in a way. So I think for my whitest colour, I want that. And then I just love the idea, as you can see here in this white opal, of having fine flecks of quite strong colours, but it doesn't, if you were to blur your eyes and look at it, it still overall looks like a crew, like an off-white colour. So that's what I was thinking for that, which could be the most challenging one to put together. And then, of course, on the other scale, I was thinking like a dark, I love this colour of yours, but I'm thinking more of a slate grey, but also with some of the specks of colours in it, and I would call that my black opal. And then, of course, I was thinking in the middle of the night, I'm going on the Australian theme, and I totally love this colour, as you all know. And I thought that's really so similar to the Kookaburra blue. So I definitely want that. And as Madeline's wedding, this is not going to be my mother of the bride dress, but almost. But I adore this colour. It's a shocking pink, but it's got a tiny bit of yellow in it. And I thought, okay, I know I can't have all bright colours, but I would like to have maybe 3 bright colours and then have some neutrals on either side of that. And so I thought, and you can also see in this opal that both of these colours feature in it. And then when you showed me this, I just jumped on it and thought, oh, I adore this minty colour.
Yeah.
Absolutely adore that. And you can also see that is also a fleck in that. So there you go. They're my wishes.
It's perfect for us when people actually have wishes. I think then we have something to work with. So it's been such a fun project. I think one of the more challenging things for us is when people aren't sure what they want. So it's wonderful that you and Madeline have got a vision, definitely. So
what would we start on? I think this is going to be the most difficult one, isn't it?
For this one, where you want just a really tiny amount of flecky things. So we've got a couple of colours like this, one in the Yarnadelic and one in the Appledore. These are both about 25% colour.
Yes.
So you want it sort of about half that much. So like much closer to 10% or even less
still
maybe.
Too dark for me.
Yeah. So in order to do that, what we were saying before about like with the knit by numbers where we put like 6 different ends in, we'll probably put in like 5 of them will just be white with the silk blended in. So it'll just be
corridor.
this. Yeah, so that kind of thing. And then what we would do for the very last one is we would have one that's just got a little bit of pink and a little bit of the blue and the mint and possibly some other colours.
Possibly the tiniest fleck of this, just the tiniest fleck.
So Sonja will show you how we make up the actual like test ones of that, but that is basically we would just run a little bit through so it would just have a very small slither of it going through there, so you just get that little tiny bit of flex. So that's one of the ideas we have of doing it. So that's what you've got over here.
Except for, can I be bossy?
And
And
change that one in.
And take that one out and put some of my favourite.
There is some green in there.
There's a bit of green, but we can add
and
a
maybe
little
take
bit
the
more.
orange out.
Remove the orange.
And
there we go.
And then we don't have blue, do we?
No.
Oh,
we can
okay.
pop a bit of blue in. At the moment, I've got some
There you go.
And some blue as well.
So
This is how we go about kind of creating some colour recipes. So I've got a couple that I tried making earlier. And these, you can see they're really lustrous. They've got that silk in them, which is gorgeous. So you can see just how much all that fibre shines. And this is the 20% in here.
And what she's done here, she went through and wrote all the percentages. So it might be like 20% silk and 60% white corridor, and then just, what does that make it, 20%?
20% less of colours, yeah.
20% colours, exactly.
And then different shades, and they all have a tone to them, don't they?
They do. So part of the conversation then is finding the undertone. So, and I think you said you wanted this colour to read a bit warmer rather than a little bit cooler.
Oh, that I'm not sure. It needs to read more...
Food for thought.
Yeah. Needs to read more cream overall, because it's going to be the lightest colour.
Yes. So the way I make these, we call them little floofs. The way you make one is what you will do is to get the exact recipe. We have some little scales, and we will weigh out, as we just did earlier, we will weigh out small quantities of fibre until you have a recipe you think you like. And then it's a case of just starting to blend them together. And we do it by hand at first. And you can see it's already starting to blend. And then once you've done it by hand a little bit, what you'll do is you'll pop it onto the hand carders.
Now,
but
that's
you can
great.
see just even through what I've done there.
This is what I like. Because you see, we've got actually quite strong specks of it. It's not heavily blended. But overall, you can see this cream is very dominant.
Yes.
That's what I like.
Exactly.
I'm going to be so fussy, I can tell. You're going to hate me. But that is looking like that. You see what I mean? Like it's cream, and then you've got a fleck here and a fleck there occasionally.
Yeah.
So there's different, I guess there's different ways of being able to do that.
So part of what it is the machines naturally will then blend this much more than one would by hand. So we've got some examples here from our Seafarer range, and these are the twiddles that we made. And if we look at this one up close, you can see it's got quite big kind of chunks of that mint, and then a little bit of the yellow, the occasional sliver of silk. But then if we look at the actual skein, it just ends up being that bit more blended.
Yeah.
And that's just because the machine is more precise than one would be by hand. But we can definitely do what we can to try and preserve that flecky colour.
So I'm thinking for my strong colours, that's great. A blend like that is beautiful, and I'm totally happy. So for this colour, for instance, would be surprisingly quite a strong pink like that, with then a little bit of yellow, maybe a tiny bit of this.
Yeah. Either a little bit of yellow, or it looks like it's actually orange coming through.
Yeah, that orange and a bit of this, and maybe there's a tiny bit of
the yellow.
So these, just say something quickly about these. So these are different base fibre blends, aren't they?
Yes.
So these ones are the colours that we currently use for our Corriedale. So it's what we make our Yarnadelic from. It's also the same colours we use in our Devonia range. And then these ones over here are what we use in our Appledore range. So you can see that these ones are much brighter and poppier, and these ones are a lot more muted. So these ones, they're not designed for the in-your-face colours quite so much.
And the way to kind of help show people that difference, could you pass me the palest skein? So this is the beautiful ones, which is our off-white in Yarnadelic. And then this is a similar shade in the Appledore. And you can see, because these base Appledore colours are punchier, it's just reading a little bit brighter in the Appledore shade Quench.
So this one is using those, which is with this much sort of darker kind of raspberry red colour. But then this one is using those. So you can see that they are much sort in-your-face colours.
Yeah,
exactly.
So essentially, you'd never get this colour from blending here because you don't have as bright a pink out of
you
this
need
range.
one like this.
Yeah.
So one can always mute the colours down by adding either a brown or a black, but you can't pump the colours up. So in order to get what you're after, what we will have to do is dye up some new base colours. But that just, then there's more fun to play with. So nothing wrong with that.
This will be a new base.
That would be a really
Exactly.
nice one.
Yeah, so we'll dye these two. And I think actually we've decided that the Appledore pink will work.
That would work.
So we'll get this colour matched onto the Corridel.
Okay, that's cool. So just having a look at this, I'm really stuck on this. Another suggestion we talked about is that we could even do a mild effect, like if we had made this one a 4-ply, for instance, we could have 3 plies of the pure
Just the
white, and then 1 ply would be sort of like
colour
something
similar
like
to
that,
this.
but it has a tiny bit of this, and this in it, or that, and then that would give those flecks of colours, but less.
And I think that would also make this such a unique yarn, because I can't think of anyone that is doing something similar to that. So
I'm hoping, because
Lots of different
we're
ideas.
going to do some experimenting.
Yeah.
But we do have an illustration
Yes.
of what that marl would look like. It's backwards, so folks
Yes.
will have to imagine a little. But these 2 marls here, which are part of our daisy marls, so these have been very handmade. And the way that these are working is they are both 2 ends of quite a dark dyed colour, blended with one end of a natural. So what we could try and do with yours is the opposite of that, where it's 2 of the natural and 1 with that dyed.
Exactly. So everywhere you see these little white specks, that would just be the little colour, and all the other dark is the beautiful ecru.
Exactly. And these are both 3 plies. So that means that a third of these ones is that natural white, whereas we could try it the other way around.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So that's really interesting. But it is interesting to see that you can make so many different colours just with these bases.
Hundreds. Hundreds.
And
definitely.
that's what you've been showing us here. And this is just small percentages of colour put in.
Yes. And they're all ever so slightly different, but they will all have the same. So I've made all of those colours there just by blending these colours here with the white. And you'll see how different. This one's quite like lime green. This one's a bit orange. This one's quite teal. So there's so much opportunity to experiment by just using a very small amount of colours.
So if I've got a few of these bright colours as so this is my light, and then I've got my version of a dark, which will be more slate than that. But we just put that as that's my dark neutral, my light neutral. I've got some really poppy colours here. These colours have some variation on a minty. And then I think it's nice to have like a couple of more calmer colours, maybe. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Like this, for instance, I could have something that was a lighter shade of this, something in between what this will be to that, and then another darker. I was thinking maybe of a darker tealy, cool teal blue.
Everybody loves a dark teal. They're always some of our most popular colours, aren't they, Hels? So I think some kind of dark bluey teal shade would be really nice, because it would also just pop so beautifully against this really bright peach too.
That's true. That's really true.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we start. And so then the next thing is you're going to get these bases dyed, and then I think we're also going to take home some of these so Madeline and I can do some carding. And
you can make your own kind of experiments.
See what we think. And then you will, what's the next stage?
We will then work out what the formula is that will actually go through the machine, because obviously these formulas are just percentages, but our machine, you have to run it through several times. So you need to know exactly how much of each colour to run through each time to get what you want.
And the machine goes in 6s as well.
So we actually need to split it into 36 rather than into 100 like you would for a percent. So there's a little bit of maths involved. And then we try putting some through the machine and see what happens.
Okay, very exciting.
Yeah, and then we do little trial spins, and then after the trial spins, we can look at the results and decide if it wants another tweak or if we're happy with it. And that's how we'll work our way through all of the colours on the list.
Yeah.
So we'll try this one with the blending method first.
Yeah.
But then, as we were saying about maybe doing a marl, we can then take just some white and then a little bit of the one that we've tried blending and just use the one and see if it looks nicer as a marl. So you can get an idea of
obviously
which
knit
effect.
it up and see what it looks like knitted
Yeah,
up.
lots of swatching to do.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's exciting.
It is very exciting. It is very exciting. It can keep you up at night, that's for sure. So what I just also want to wrap up the interview on is you've just finished hosting your annual meal open weekend, where Madeline and I were there. It was very, very beautiful. So talk about what was on offer over the weekend and also how this event supports the meal and the community.
Well, we have mill tours. Is the main reason that it's the open for the mill is that you can come here and you can see everything in the mill.
Yeah, meet the machines.
We're a factory, so the rest of the time we do not allow the public in here because it is not safe. They're not very dangerous machines, but still, we don't when you're going, oh, that's pretty, and then losing a finger. So that is the main reason that we started doing these way back when. But now we've expanded out of the mill into a whole new venue. And we run talks and classes, and we have a cafe, and obviously we have our shop where you can buy everything that we sell. And we also invite some of our friends from other traders to come along and
So
sell
other
their things.
vendors.
Yes, so there are a few other vendors who are selling like complementary products as well. So like cute little accessories or like knitting books, or we had somebody this year who was selling lots of vintage haberdashery, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
So what kind of talks and classes were on this year?
So this year, so the other thing which we haven't mentioned at all is we actually make tops as well, and that is for hand spinners. So all of our yarns are also available unspun for folks who want to either spin or felt themselves. So 2 of the talks were run by Bex of Tiny Fibre Studio, and those were both spinning. So we always have intro to spinning, because spinning can be one of those things that's a bit intimidating when people are first starting out. I think a class is really helpful. And then we also had a class that was for more experienced spinners, which was about like spinning for purpose. Because I think with spinning, it's a bit like driving a car, and one can get into a groove and then you just make the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
So this was thinking how to spin a thicker yarn, or maybe how to spin a yarn with more twist for socks. So those were the 2 spinning classes. And then we also had 2 knitting classes, which were taught by Amanda Jones. And one of those was about making a sweater to fit your personal body, which I know is always a very popular topic. And then the other one was intro to sock knitting. Okay. So socks can be a bit complicated, turning a heel, etc.
And both of you did a talk together on creating your own custom yarns.
Yes. So this year, our special that we did for the open weekend, we actually got all of our customers to vote on every process that we went through. So everything we've just said about how we work out what it's going to be, they got to vote. So they chose which fibres went in, they chose what colours went in, they chose the colour palette, they chose the colour pop that went in the colour palette, and they chose all the names, so the whole way through. So we did the talk explaining that whole process.
Yeah.
So that was what was on offer from us. And then we had another talk which was all about the science of natural dyeing. Someone came out of that and said it was a bit like high school chemistry. It did look quite scary, but it was really interesting.
Sinead from Gull Rock Studios, who's lovely. So the other thing we try to do with the open weekend is we work with people who are also based in the West Country. So it's quite nice. It's a little slice of
the community bringing together.
Exactly.
And it was in an absolutely stunning town hall.
Yes.
I have to say.
Yes, it's the 17th, 18th century assembly rooms in South Molton. So it's like, imagine you were going to a ball in a Jane Austen film.
Yes.
That's the kind of vibe. It's very pretty. And all the classes are in the mayor's parlour, and they're like oil paintings on the wall. It's very
and the talks are
fancy.
in the courtroom.
Yes.
Which is really gorgeous.
Definitely.
Okay, it was a really, really fun weekend. And it's going to be fun to continue to work with you. So,
Yeah.
and of course, thank you so much for giving us your time today to interview you.
Well, thanks for coming along. We've had a great time.
Definitely.
Let's say goodbye to the audience.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
So water looks like this really calm substance, but in there it is mad. It's a frenzy. And you can see this poor little blue blob in the middle is being surrounded by these crazy water molecules. If we take mordanting, we're using a metal salt like alum to form a bridge between the dye stuff and the fibre. So now we've got our wool. Okay. The wool structure is a long chain structure. It's got these functional groups on the side. The functional groups are negatively charged. And they, once we add some alum in, the aluminium ions, which are positively charged from our mordant, are then attracted to these negative functional groups on the wool. There's no point in adding too much alum or too much dye stuffs because there's only a certain number of those sites, those charged functional groups that they can stick to. Okay, so now we've got our long chain amino acid, our negative functional groups, our mordant in solution, and then we've got our Himalayan rhubarb, which also has these side groups, which are also charged negatively, which go, ha, I found myself some lovely positive aluminium ions in this solution, so I'm going to stick to them. So now we've got our mordant literally biting into our wool and into our dye stuff, and it's holding it on.
The reason they have names is because this is a GN4, that's a this is a GN5, that's a GN4, and that's a GN4 next door as well. That's boring. So this is Cuthbert, this is Ralph, and next door is A2D2. Every one of our machines has a name, and they're all for a reason, but I couldn't tell you what they all are. Some of them I can, but not all of them.
The gill box is actually doing three things at the same time for us. It's blending those colours together. It can also blend different fibres together. Importantly, it's drafting the fibre out, which means teasing the fibres past each other. So we're going from a thick stream of fibre at the back to a thin one at the front. And it's also straightening out the fibres, so making sure they're all really nice and parallel, which is really great for spinning, part of what makes us a worsted spinning mill, and it makes your yarn really smooth and soft and lovely. Here we're making the first blend, what's called a first gill, of Knit by Numbers raspberry, number 1 to 8. And while it's running, it makes this lovely ice cream swirl of fibre as the can and the coiler are both turning around. So from here, We have to go through a couple of machines before we get to the spinner.
So this is what's called a draw box, and it's drawing the yarn apart. So as it comes into the back end here, it goes into a roller, and then it has a roller at the front, and in between it there's a gauge, an ambular gauge, and that distance between them is enough to allow the fibres to separate. It doesn't stretch them, it literally teases them apart. One of the things we have to do is keep the moisture in the fibre. So we spray the fibre a lot before it goes through the system. So we're looking for it to retain between about 7 and 10% moisture. So it gives it that flexibility to roll through, and also reduces the amount of static in it, which is pretty important to us. So as he comes out the other end, he's going down through here, he's running through these spindles. It's being powered underneath and it's rotating around, and it's got a lifter system here. You'll see going up and down to gradually feed it onto the bobbin. This is stepping down from a fibre top to what's called a heavy roving, and the next machine steps down from a heavy roving to what's called a pencil roving. And why do we do that? Because we need a lighter roving to get onto the spinner to make it work on the spinner. If it's too heavy on the spinner, it can't draft it through.
This is our smaller spinning machine. It's a ring spinner called Butler, named after his previous owner, and he's about 55, I think, now. Getting on, but a really trusty machine. There used to be hundreds of these in Yorkshire, and now this is possibly the last one in the world, so we take good care of him. What he does is he takes this roving that we've made and it runs through a set of rollers, much like we've seen before. So you have a slower first roller and then a faster final roller. So it's drafting out between those two rollers. In the middle, again, we've got a little ambler that just controls the draft by keeping a tiny bit of pressure on the roving. And then when it pops out the second roller, we insert twist into it and it becomes a single ply. So if we set the gears correctly, we can make our single ply exactly the right thickness. And that's how we know that your 100 gram skein of yarn is exactly the right length of yarn.
So this is Boyd. He is one of the oldest machines upstairs. He is probably from about the 1960s. Boyd is a folding machine, which is also the same as plying. We take 3 of the singles we spun downstairs and twist them together in the opposite direction to how they were spun to form our plied yarn.